الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمد عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Dear respected brothers, friends, elders and sisters listening at home, to continue from our last session in the lessons of fiqh, we currently are doing ghusl. So we are speaking about the fara'id, the sunnah actions, the compulsory actions in ghusl, and that is what we had a look at exactly in the last session. So as a recap for the brothers, so there are three fara'id, there are three compulsory actions in ghusl. So they are to gargle the mouth, to rinse the nose, and to wash whatever is possible without undue difficulty or hardship over the entire body. So a person has to do these things. If a person does not do these things, then his ghusl is incomplete. So if a person forgets to gargle the mouth and does not gargle the mouth during his ghusl, then his ghusl will be incomplete. Likewise, if a person does not rinse the nose, or if a person doesn't ensure that all his body is wet. So let's say even to the extent of a single hair, if a single hair is left dry on a person's body, then the ghusl will not be complete. Something to keep in mind is also when a person has long nails or toenails, etc., what can sometimes happen is that the nail shields the skin directly underneath from water reaching it. So if a person does have long nails, then they should ensure that the nail is covering, obviously not the skin which the nail is attached to, but the skin which the nail covers, that should be wet as well. So these are the three fara'id of ghusl. As for the sunnah actions in ghusl, so the first thing is to make intention. So there are 5 sunnah actions. So you make intention and you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and you should say this ideally before obviously go inside the toilet and before you take or remove your clothes off. So this is where you should say Bismillah. So you shouldn't say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim inside the toilet, because this is obviously the name of Allah should not be mentioned inside the bathroom where a person relieves himself. So if the place is where if one's bathroom is just a shower, then you can say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim inside that place, but you should say that ideally before you remove your clothes. So this is intention, saying intention. This is sunnah action of the Prophet ﷺ. So before doing ghusl, we'd make intention. The second sunnah action is to wash the hands until the wrists. So the first thing a person washes is the hands until the wrists. The third sunnah action is that if there's any najasa, if there's any impurity on one's private parts, both the front and the rear, then this should be washed. So this is the next thing that is washed in a person's ghusl. So if let's say a person is doing ghusl because he has had, or because a person has had a wet dream, then they wash their private parts first. So this is the third sunnah action. The fourth sunnah action is you wash off any other filth from the body. So if there is any other filth on the body, so let's say for example a person has blood on his foot, for example, so he washes that after washing his private parts. So this is the next thing a person washes. And finally, the fifth sunnah action is to perform wudu first, right? Followed by pouring water over the entire body, starting with the head for a total of 3 times. So by doing all of this, then a person's ghusl is complete. So before a person actually, like we say, just generally have a shower where we wet our whole body, it's sunnah to do wudu first, and then engage in pouring water or using the shower head to wash our entire body. So it's sunnah to do wudu first, and then engage in washing the entire body. So the sunnah way of washing the entire body is to start with the head, and thereafter you pour water over your body for a total of 3 times. So you can start with the head, which is sunnah, and then you can start by pouring water over your right shoulder, then your left shoulder, etc. You can do that 3 times, whilst ensuring that the whole body has been wet with water. So it has to be wet with water. Even if a single bit of the body is left dry, then a person's ghusl will be incomplete. So when is ghusl fardh? Now this is really important because unfortunately, due to lack of knowledge and due to ignorance, a lot of people, they reach old age, and they reach the age where they've been married for so long, etc. And after many years, they realize that their salah, their Quran, everything was not being accepted purely because they've not been doing ghusl according to Islam after having a shower, after having relationship with one's spouse. So this is obviously a big issue within our communities. So it's, and quite often a lot of people say that I didn't know, is that okay? Or, no one taught me, is that okay? No, this won't be an excuse because ignorance is not an excuse. So not knowing something is not an excuse. How are we using a defect as an excuse in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is, it's not going to work out. So likewise, when a person commits a crime, they won't be able to say to the judge, oh, I didn't know this. I didn't know that this was illegal, or I didn't know, I was speeding down the road. I didn't know that this road was a 30-mile-per-hour road. I thought it was a 50-mile-per-hour road. This won't work, right? So if ignorance does not work in the laws of the world, then how do we expect it to work in obviously the laws in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this is why we need to educate ourselves, and educating ourselves to the bare minimum, the basics, the foundations of Islam is a fard upon every single Muslim, male, female, child, whatever. Every person must know exactly how to live his life according to Islam, according to the Sharia, as shown to us by the Prophet ﷺ. So when is ghusl fard? There are three scenarios when ghusl is fard. Fard meaning compulsory, you have to do it. So the first scenario is the emission of sperm or sexual fluid that leaves its normal place inside the body with pleasure. So this obviously applies to both a man and a woman. So whenever we have the emission of sperm, then ghusl becomes compulsory. So this can either happen through obviously a relationship with one's spouse, or it can happen through a wet dream. So both man and woman, it can happen through a wet dream. And if that is the case, then a person needs to have a ghusl. And if he does not have a ghusl, if a person does not have a ghusl, then they will be unable to read the Quran, pray salah, etc. The second scenario when ghusl is fard is disappearance of the male private part into the female private part. So obviously, this is what happens during relationships with one's spouse. So just this happening will necessitate one's ghusl, even if there is no emission of sperm. The third scenario when ghusl is fard is the ending of menstruation or postnatal bleeding. So a woman after her menstruation finishes, or a woman after the bleeding after having a child, that postnatal bleeding that finishes, so she becomes pure from that, then in this scenario she has to do ghusl. So the ghusl is fard upon her. So there are certain questions that some people often have. So for example, when after sleeping, when waking up, a person finds wetness in his trousers or in their trousers. So this can apply to both a man and a woman. So a person finds wetness in their trousers but does not remember having any sort of dream. So what does a person do? So in this case, a person will do ghusl. So ghusl is compulsory. Another question that people often have is, if sperm comes out in the state of wakefulness and it happens due to, for example, like an illness or maybe lifting up a heavy object, which can happen to some people. So is ghusl compulsory in this case? The answer is no, ghusl will not be compulsory in this case. It's only compulsory when it comes out with desire, and obviously in the following scenarios which we mentioned. So this is when ghusl is fard. When is ghusl wajib? So ghusl is wajib for a person who becomes Muslim, and before becoming Muslim they had, for example, engaged in a relationship with their spouse, or they had done something else which necessitated them to do ghusl. So someone who becomes Muslim whilst in a state of major ritual impurity, this means that they need to have a ghusl. So this is, so now ghusl becomes wajib upon this person. However, the sound opinion is that doing ghusl is fardh. When is ghusl sunnah muakkadah emphasized? So most of us do this, alhamdulillah. So the Friday prayer, so doing ghusl for Jummah Salah. So before Jummah Salah, when we attend the gathering, we do ghusl. This is a sunnah muakkadah. The two Eid prayers, so to do ghusl before attending the two Eid prayers, this is a sunnah muakkadah. The Prophet ﷺ will always do this. The third scenario where ghusl is sunnah muakkadah is entering into the state of ihram. So when one wishes to go to Umrah, or when one wishes to perform the Hajj, they have to wear the two cloths. And before the person wears those two cloths, is sunnah muakkadah to do ghusl before that, and then don the two cloths, and then obviously pray the 2 rakats and then recite the talbiyah. The fourth scenario where it is sunnah muakkadah to do ghusl is after midday on the day of Arafah for those performing Hajj. So this is a day from the days of Hajj where the Hujjaj, where the pilgrims, it is sunnah for them, sunnah muakkadah for them, to do ghusl on this day. So this does not apply obviously for those people who are not performing Hajj. As for when ghusl is nafl, so when entering Mecca, so it's mustahab, it's desirable a person does ghusl when entering Medina, and also when visiting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when a person wishes to visit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then it's desirable that he purifies himself, he does ghusl. So when is ghusl not necessary? So ghusl is not necessary when a person has the experience that madhi or wadi has exited. So what are these two different kinds of fluids? So in Arabic, there's 3 kinds of fluids that can leave a person's private parts. So they are mani, madhi, and wadi. So mani is sperm, which we just had a look at, which we spoke about before. So mani is sperm, and if a person during a wet dream or during a relationship with one spouse, if mani comes out, then ghusl is compulsory. So this is what we had a look at. We spoke about this just in the previous slides. What is madhi? Madhi is that fluid which comes out at the time of thinking of doing intercourse, or at the time of thinking about something which is appealing to a person's whatever that may be. So this is what madhi is. So this is pre-seminal fluid. It comes at the time of before engaging in intercourse, or whilst engaging as well. It comes in anticipation of pleasuring oneself. So this is what madhi is. So ghusl is not necessary when madhi comes out. What about wadi? Wadi is that fluid which comes out either before urination or after urination. So it's a white fluid that can come out before urinating or after urinating. So in this case, ghusl is not necessary either. The only scenario when ghusl is necessary when mani comes out, and mani is that liquid, thick white liquid in the case of men, which comes out in spurts, etc., and it comes out with feelings of desire. So this is the only case when ghusl will be necessary. So when is ghusl not necessary?